Whoa, league of my own, it don't get better. No, read what I wrote, I'm a bestseller. Yeah, reach for my goals, hit it dead center. Hit it dead center. Bullseye, hit it the most, is no misses. Something like fish in a barrel, it's no different. Blindfold on me, I still got the most vision. Trendsetter told them before, but they don't listen. Better, bring a better bad because I'm bigger, better. Solo, single, selling several shows at every single second. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Kinda came and crushed the competition, hope they get the message. Look, living it fast, spinning my eminent bag. I never go slow, thinking I'll crash. End up a thing in the past, they know I won't though. Big fish catching me, they gon' need a bigger boat. Ironic how the world stops when I spin a globe. Always showing up. Right. Last year's song still holding up. See the name now and they know what's up. Right. Price hit the top and it's going up. I'm a trendsetter. Whoa, league of my own, it don't get better. No, read what I wrote, I'm a bestseller. Yeah, reach for my goals, hit it dead center. Hit it dead center. Yeah, trendsetter. Whoa, league of my own, it don't get better. No, read what I wrote, I'm a bestseller. Yeah, reach for my goals, hit it dead center. Hit it dead center.
B.O.D. Get the spell check, a fact check, and prevent errors going up. See the bent lever, jalapeno hot, y'all just red peppers. All y'all copying copies, but I'm left center. And your shorty glitching on me like a text center. Hit her with a French tenor. Crazy, wait until I do the next record. I leave head severed. I don't need to hit the bench ever. But if I do, I'm PRing to the next level. Condo flights to Lufthansa. Already know who you people fans of. Call me Big Daddy in a big body Wrangler. Call me Big Daddy Adam Sandler. Bullseye, aiming for a cottage with a poolside, full size.
Always showing up. Right. Last year's song still holding up. See the name now and they know what's up. Right. Price hit the top and it's going up. I'm a trendsetter. Whoa, league of my own, it don't get better. No, read what I wrote, I'm a bestseller. Yeah, reach for my goals, hit it dead center. Hit it dead center.
What's going on? What's going on, Trend Tribe? If you guys can hear me loud and clear, go ahead and drop some yeses inside the chat box. We're getting this thing kicked off here in the next 5 minutes. Do me a favor, grab this link at the top of your screen, blast this out, let everyone know we are live for day 2 here inside of the Trend Trap Bootcamp. Great to be here and excited for today's session. Lots of value coming, and I believe that you guys are in the right place. Come on.
Century. Started from the bottom, dreams in my pocket. Now I trade in markets, living out the socket. Screens flashing, numbers, dollars in motion. Trend trap, be the method smooth like the ocean. Trading changed my life, money on the rise. No more 9 to 5, now I'm seeing highs. Trend trap mode, following the charts. Riding the waves, hitting bullseye darts. Far from the struggle, now wealth in the air. Invested in myself, ain't no time for despair. Pivot and rebound, see the profit shine. Channels my hustle, designed to refine. Trading changed my life, luxury on display. Broke free from the grind, I paved my own way. Trend trap method, mastering the art. Took my future, made it a state of the art. Money flowing in, it's a lavish routine. From the screen to the scene, living the dream. Lost in the trades, found my true essence. Market whisperer defining my presence. Trading changed my life, wealth and prosperity. Breaking chains of fate, now in clarity. Trend trap methods, secure my vision. From the bottom to the peak, my life's transition. Far from the struggle, now wealth in the air. Invested in myself, ain't no time for despair. Pivot and rebound, see the profit shine. Channels my hustle, designed to refine. Far from the struggle, far from the struggle, now wealth in the air. Invested in myself, ain't no time for despair. Pivot and rebound, see the profit shine. Channels my hustle, designed to refine. Far from the struggle, now wealth in the air. Invested in myself.
All right, we're getting started here in one more minute. Let's go ahead and make sure we blast this link out inside of the chats. This is day 2 here of the Trend Trap Bootcamp. If you're watching the recording, go ahead and just fast forward to one. Come on, one more minute.
from the streets. Hustle on repeat, ditching the grind, out of line, never mind the defeat. OGs popping off, see me making the switch. AWOL from the chaos, no snitching the pitch. Gone AWOL, not following the herd. Building empires on my own word. Chosen Jesus, got the holy touch. Living large, breaking free from the crutch. Multiple hustles, online biz, stacking paper. Sleeps for the weak, I'm the dream chaser. Crowd stays lost, I'm riding my route. Stand tall, break the mold, never have a doubt. Gone AWOL, not following the herd. Building empires on my own word. Chosen Jesus, got the holy touch. Living large, breaking free from the crutch. Vision 2020, clarity precise. Playing the game, moving like a poltergeist. Entrepreneur flow, every dollar counts. Faith as my guide, watching the amounts. Turn the page, new chapter, no regret. From darkness to light, my path well set. Best version, living with intention. Choice is divine, defying convention.
Come on. Shout out to some AI artists, man. Shout out to some AI artists. Go ahead and drop the word AI or letters AI in the chat box if you guys want me to show you how to make your. We're at the end of today's session. Now, just kidding. You guys can go check out a couple different really cool platforms for you to just be creative. And as we get kicked off on today's session, just know that website that you can make your own, suno.com, S-U, make your own song, listen to it in the car, listen to it while you trade and fire yourself up. Welcome to day 2 here inside of the Trend Trap Bootcamp. If you guys can hear me, if you guys can see me, go ahead and drop ready in the chat box as we get this thing kicked off. And I'm fired up because yesterday we went over identifying the trend. Because you can't trade powerfully if you don't know what direction the market is flowing. We really focused in on the ability to identify market structure. And I know there was a couple questions in regarding one specific pair that I'm going to review today. So I want to make sure we're all on the same page. But today we talk about where to strike. I think the biggest question that someone asks when they look at the chart is, okay, which direction is it going in? Is it going up or is it going down? But the second question is, okay, now that I know it's going up or now that I know it's going down, where do I look for the turning point? Where do I look for the pivot? Where do I look for it to continue going down? Because it looks like it's been going up for a little bit, but on the overall trend, it's a downtrend. And that, my friends, is what we call the zone. Everyone drop 2 words in the chat box. The zone. The zone. The zone. Drop 2 words in the chat box. The zone. Because not every point in a trend is an entry. Not every point in the trend is where it's going to turn around. And you're not here to scalp the noise. You're here to trap emotions and get paid. So I do believe that in order for you to be able to put yourself in that position where you're going to know where the market's at and where it's potentially even going and how to identify that, you're going to have to understand this key principle that I want to share with you guys on today's session. Now, the zone is probably one of the most important pieces. Once you understand market structure, it's very imperative for you to understand that we don't guess, we label, then we wait. You see, I talked about the idea of the surfer yesterday. And the surfer waits sometimes for hours just to ride one wave for 30 seconds. And that's considered a good day out on the water. But most traders, just like most beginner surfers in the ocean, they're paddling for every wave. They're exhausting themselves and they're addicted to the attempt and not the patience of identifying the pattern. So just like traders, most of them are addicted to the noise. They want to be in a trade, any trade, because they feel like trading means that they're in a trade. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Trading sometimes is waiting. Trading is sometimes doing absolutely nothing, sitting on your hands and just allowing the chart and the price action to come to you. So the zone is that. The zone is where we wait. Everyone drop the words wait in the chat. The zone is where we wait. And I want you to know that just because you're in a waiting time doesn't mean you're in a wasting time. Don't think just because you've been on the charts every morning and you haven't had a setup that you have to push a setup, that you have to be in a trade in order for your time to have been worth it, that you need to be actually active in something in order for you to feel like, you're doing something worthwhile. That couldn't be further from the truth. Couldn't be further from the truth. So as you're on today's session, understand that just because you're in a waiting time doesn't mean it's a wasting time. We don't enter because a candle looked good. We enter the market when it comes to us. Now, the zone is going to help you filter the noise and give you a calm place to act with confidence. It's the opposite of FOMO, fear of missing out. It is control. So while most traders chase candles, we don't chase, we set traps. And we have this saying here inside of Trend Trap, we don't chase them. You know it? Put in the chat box. We replace them, right? The zone is where we trap emotion with structure. So let's break down how we find our zone inside of the Trend Trap strategy. Number one is we drop from a 4-hour chart where we identified the trend and we go down. Yesterday, I mentioned a key phrase known as the top-down analysis. A top-down analysis means that we started on a higher time frame and we're working our way down. Now, here we go from the 4-hour chart. We go from the 4-hour chart to where? We go to the 1-hour chart. And on the 1-hour chart, this is where we're looking for our zones. That's our battlefields, right? If we're in an uptrend, we look left and we find the last major resistance level that broke and we mark it as potential support now. If we're in a downtrend, we look for the last support that broke and we expect that level to become resistance. Now, here's the thing. We're simple. We don't use fibs or a bunch of indicators or sprinkle fairy dust on our charts or pray to God that it's going to turn around. We use structure and market psychology, and we never draw more than 2 zones at a time. Why? Because the moment you start cluttering your chart is the moment you start cluttering your mind. We don't want clutter on our charts. Now, this is really important. We don't have any random boxes or rectangles, no guesses. We are using what's called a strategy. Now, I need you to have confidence as you learn these 5 steps because they were carefully and intentionally articulated to be able to give you the most confidence, clarity, and consistency in the markets than you've ever seen. 5 filters to your mind are what's known as an objective trading system. An objective trading system isn't something that you're just choosing to listen to step 1 and 2. It's literally a checklist. And I like to think about this like my friend John. My friend John, not John Martinez in the chat, but although you're my friend too, man, but my friend John is a pilot. And as a pilot, every time that they enter the cockpit, every time that they go to take off, they have a checklist that is absolutely mandatory by the FAA, the Aviation Administration. It's like a logbook that they check to make sure that you're doing what you need to do, and you have a series of checks and balances. So even though most people would know by the sound of the engine that the plane is on, they have to check that box off. Even though you can look down and probably see that the plane has some gas, they need to write out how much gas it actually has. Even though that people can see that the electricity in the plane is working, they have to check all of these things that most people would overlook because they get comfortable. And if you don't believe me, do you remember when you first started driving a vehicle, car? How was it that first time you started driving a car? You remember? You probably sat down and you were like, okay, side mirrors, check, right? You're like, rear view mirror, perfect, I can see, seatbelt, car is on. You were going through the checklist, yes or yes? You were going through that steps in order because that's how you were taught to be able to make sure everything is working properly. Now, what happens 2 years after you start driving? You don't even check your rear view mirror anymore. You don't realize your side mirror is closed until you already start backing up and hit the thing behind you, right? You might not even put your seatbelt on before you get onto the road, or you put your car in drive. You start overlooking these little simple things because with repetition comes comfort, and with comfort comes laziness, and with laziness comes mistakes. And when you make those mistakes, that's when accidents happen. Nobody wants to get rear-ended or run into the mailbox or the car behind them. But when you overlook the steps that you were originally taught, these things are not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. Let's apply that same psychology into the markets. Let us not be the driver that forgets the steps in which we learned. Because when we rear-end the car in front of us inside of the markets, that usually looks like a blown account, wasted time and effort because you chose to forego the very things that you learned that were the rules. We talked about a gentleman by the name of Richard Dennis yesterday, the gentleman that created absolute success and helped 23 traders become what's known as the turtles that went on to make millions. He didn't teach them anything other than a system. And it was in their ability to follow that system that he qualified them and kept them around inside of his firm. So I want to ask you on today's call, are you here to just wing it? Are you here to just see if this works? Or are you here to follow a system and be able to duplicate a system that's already working, a trend trading system backed off of what's known as Dow theory that's been working for over 100 years? Drop in the chat box a system. A system. You have a system. You're learning Trend Trap. You're learning a system. You're not learning just a philosophy of how to look at the markets. You're learning step by step. Step one, identify the trend. In an uptrend, we only take buys. In a downtrend, we only take sells. Now that we know we're in a downtrend, now we're looking at the last support to become resistance. And now that we're in an uptrend, we're looking at the last resistance to become support. And I'll explain how this works. But let me say this again. We don't trade to be right. We trade to be what? Trade to be rich, right? We don't care about being right. There's this saying in the trading space that says you rather be rich or you rather be right. Sometimes being right means sticking to our guns when the data is going against it. So this is important. We don't trade when price hits our zone. We trade when price reacts to our zone. We trade when price reacts to our zone. Let me say that again. We don't trade when price hits our zone. We trade when price reacts to our zone. I'm going to show you exactly what you're looking for. So if price hits the zone and it breaks straight through, cool. That zone is what's known as invalid. The market blew through it and it wasn't our level that we were looking for the reaction. We draw the next one up or down, and now that's the new sniper spot. This is how you avoid getting emotional or married to an idea or a direction. Man, I can't tell you the amount of times that I was in trades that were clearly going against me. It broke the zone, broke everything, and I entered prematurely. And instead of getting out of the trade like a responsible system follower would do, I entered more trades. I literally said, okay, this thing has to turn around. I was married to the idea. I was married to the direction. Man, it has to be going down. It has to be in a downtrend. Let's enter more sells. And gold just keeps going up. I move my stop loss now because I'm like, it has to. I don't want to take the L. At least if it's floating, I'm not taking the loss. Let me just move my stop loss. And then what turned into a 1% loss now turns into a 10% loss. And if you don't know, as we cover risk management in this section called the shields, risk management's there to protect you, not to hurt your ego. So our goal here is to be able to react, not try to predict. As we draw our zones, we're going to label them with a price point, and we want to go ahead and label them using something called quarter levels. Now, there's quarter level theory. There's a whole book on this about trading. And quarter level theory says that price tends to respect numbers like 0, 25, 50, and 75. We break things into quarters in everything that we do. I don't know why we do it. It's just the way that we do it. In fact, in Spanish, if I tell you that we're going to have a meeting at 12:04, right? That means 12:15. We broke it into a quarter. If there's 60 minutes in a year, we're breaking that into 15-minute parts, right? 15, 30, 45, 60. Why do we do that? I don't know. It's something to do with psychology. And if you don't believe me, when's the last time somebody told you to meet with them? What time did they tell you to meet with them? Did they tell you 12:07? Did they tell you 12:17? Did they tell you, hey, let's have a meeting at 12:48? What do people usually tell you? Drop it in the chat box. If you're having a meeting with someone, your last meeting that you had, when did we even start today's session? Exactly. Right? They're psychological points that our mind uses. And price tends to respect these numbers, and institutions place entries, stop loss, and take profits at these numbers. Why? Because humans love round numbers. So do banks, so do algorithms. So when our zones line up near these levels, it adds another layer of confluence. Here's your vocabulary word of the day: confluence. Write that down. Confluence means what? Confluence means multiple clues lining up in the same direction. Confluence, if you were talking about it in the courtroom and I was a lawyer, would be that all of the clues are pointing towards the same suggestion, whether or not the defendant is guilty or not guilty. Confluence is when our zone is telling us that this is a price of reaction, that the previous support and resistance is telling us that it is reacting there, and it's at a quarter level, and it matches up with correlation of the dollar, which we'll talk about later on. Confluence means multiple clues going in the same direction. It tells us this might be a magnet for stop losses, entry, liquidity, as some know as it. But don't drawing zones every 25 level. Use the structure first and then see if it lines up. And if it does, then that's a green flag. So let's go into a live example here on the charts and go to what we looked at yesterday and be able to draw some zones to see if price reacted. Out of the 3 to 4 pairs we marked up together in the first lesson, let's see if these zones actually work. Now remember, we don't use fibs. We don't use any special indicators. We're just using price action. Becoming a trend trap trader doesn't mean that you're joining the trend trap nation. It doesn't mean that you're now identifying yourself as one of the most successful trading strategies that existed for 100 years, but it also means you're a price action trader. Everyone drop price action inside of the chat box. Amazing. So, yesterday, we called out what? What did we say on the last episode when price was right here on AUD/USD? We said we were looking for what? We're looking for what? We were looking for buys. Why? Because the market was in an uptrend. It made a higher high, it made a higher low, and it never opened and closed below that previous higher low. Do you remember that? Joshua Jones, are you on today's session? Because you wrote it in the chat. Yeah, we were looking for buys, right? So how did we know? We didn't know. We were waiting for the reaction. If I drop down to the 1 hour chart, what I'm looking for is my last resistance to become my support. So let's drop to the 1 hour chart. Let's press replay mode. Our session yesterday was at 8 a.m. Here we were yesterday at 8 a.m. How do we know where to look for? The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to switch from a candlestick chart up here at the top to a line chart. Remember, less clutter, less cluttered thinking, less cluttered mind. And what I'm looking for are peaks and valleys. Okay, so let's draw this out. Peaks and valleys are in a uptrend. I'm looking to the left. Let's say price is here. I'm looking and scanning my eyes to the left to where we have a lot of these peaks. Look at them as like mountain peaks. In a downtrend, I'm looking for valleys where the market once created a floor or a valley. And what I want to do is in a downtrend, I want to draw support at the previous valley and set my zone, the trap, and wait for price to come here, give me a reaction, and then continue moving down. This is where we trap the trend all the way to the bank. And the same goes for an uptrend. In an uptrend, the market's making higher highs. And as the market's making higher highs, and it's right there, we draw our zone at previous resistance, and we wait for it to become support. Drop a yes in the chat box if that makes sense. Resistance is where the market stops at an invisible level, and it seems like it's important because it keeps stopping there once or twice, and we mark it as resistance. This is also known as the ceiling. When price gets strong enough and breaks through the ceiling, what was once the ceiling, we now wait to become the floor. Very similarly, in a downtrend, when price is rejecting a specific level multiple times, we identify as support, also known as the floor. When price builds up enough strength to break through this floor, like it did here, we now switch directions. The market starts going up. Here, we're not taking sells. We're being patient, and we're waiting for the market to come into our zone and see if it reacts. Now, whether it reacts or not is not our concern. Our concern is just being able to identify the zone and let the market figure the rest out. So as we look at this chart, let's identify where are my last levels of resistance. And I don't want to look all the way over here. If price is here, I'm looking at that level and below. Okay, so below this yellow line is where my eyes are scanning for the most amount of touches from peaks. So maybe this one would be the first one, right? Let's go ahead and just circle them. That's one right there. That's a peak right there. That's a peak right there. That's a peak right there. I want to draw the one that's touched the most times. So if I were to draw this from left to right, it'd probably be this area right here, because this one, the market is already at or currently breaking through. So I'd choose this one right here based off of these peaks. Everyone drop the word resistance in the chat box if it makes sense. Resistance is where the market touches from underneath and stops. We have two touches there. This one is really good too, but the market's currently sitting there, so we'll draw the one a little bit down below. Draw the word resistance in the chat box if it makes sense. So then what I'm going to do, and here's the secret sauce, all right? Here's the secret sauce. Pay very close attention. How big do we draw our rectangle? How big do we draw it? Is this a zone? Can we draw a zone like this? No, we cannot. Why? Because we want to make our zone as precise as possible. So once we identify the area of resistance, what I'm looking for is the last resistance candle. And I'm going to choose the one that touches the most points. So in this example, I would choose this candle right here. I'm going to draw my zone to the width of the body of the candle, because this one right here touches all of this area, and it touches this area, and it used it as support here. Clearly, this is a good zone. Let's press play and see if the market reacted according to our zone properly. Okay, so the market came down a little bit and came a little bit below, but it rejected this zone. See price kind of building up pressure in this area? This is what's known as a reaction. In the next video, we're going to talk about our pattern that we look for in the zone that gives us a notification of whether or not the market is what? Whether or not the market is going to react to this zone. There's something that happens in here that gives us a sign that the market is probably not going to keep going down, and in fact, it's probably going to go up. And as we press play, what happened next? The market began going into the direction of the overall trend, which is the 4-hour chart, and now the market is all the way up here hours later. Pay very close attention here. So in this example, what we're looking for is a reaction at our zone and for the market to go back up to previous 1 hour highs. Okay. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we cover entry, exit, and target levels. But what's important to know is, do you think that this zone and where the market reacted is somewhere near a quarter level? Let's see. This zone we drew, 64.25, 64 flat. In fact, the market touched exactly, and let's look at this. Look at this. You're going to be blown away. The market touched exactly at this price point. Right here. The price that it reacted in. This is quarter level, right? 950. Whatever it ends in, 50. Drop a yes in the chat box if that makes sense. Didn't this look like consolidation to you? No, it does not. I marked it up yesterday on the session, and we discussed why it doesn't look like. And this isn't consolidation because it's on a 15-minute chart. The only way you can say something is consolidation is if it's not going higher or lower than previous areas. That's the only way it's consolidation. This went higher than a previous area. That's not consolidation. Consolidation would look like this, right? Where the market isn't really going higher and lower than a specific zone. The market in this example was in consolidation. As soon as it broke out, it's now in an uptrending market. So there's AUD USD. Now on yesterday's session, I noticed that I said something, okay, that doesn't directly align with how I marked up the other charts. And I want to go over this for you guys. And let me just be very clear. Yesterday I said that this was our break of structure. Now, even though it is a break of structure because it broke above this high, I also stated that if the market is at a lower high up here, the lower high is the break of structure. So please excuse me yesterday for mentioning that this was our break of structure point, because that was incorrect. Our break of structure point is always going to be either the lower high, higher low, and the previous structure example. Now, even though the market did go up from here, and it did keep going back up to the upside, right? Then technically it wasn't an uptrend. You want to identify your uptrend based on an open and close above this candle area. So this would have been our first candle that opened and closed above, and we would have been looking for an uptrend. Okay? So here we have lower high, lower low. Everyone drop yes in the chat box if this makes sense. Yeah? So now if we're in an uptrend, let's go ahead and look for the zone. Do the same thing. Previous resistance. Draw this. That was our daily level. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at the peak. And look where the market reacted to. I got two peaks right here. Multiple peaks. This is the best one. Why? This only touched here once, but this touched here 1, 2, 3, 4 times, then reacted as support. Let's draw a label. Round it to the nearest quarter level, 25. And let's find the last body and let's draw it. Here's the last body of that resistance candle right here. And look how the market broke above and reacted here before going up. Drop some dollar signs in the chat box if you're starting to see it. In an uptrend, what was resistance becomes support. We're not trading off of reversals or guesses or trying to catch wick entry right here. We're waiting for what's known as the breakout. And in tomorrow's session, I'll be going deep into what's known as the breakout. But I want to go ahead and give you some more examples so we get the hang of this thing together. On the 4-hour chart, we were looking for buys. The market is in an uptrend. Because the market's in an uptrend, we look at previous levels of resistance. Go to the line chart. Where's my resistance? Remember, price was here yesterday. Let's go back. Tuesday at 8 a.m. Price was here. Look where it's sitting. Oh my gosh. Look at all those peaks right there. See that? Go back, draw it to the last resistance candle. Now, pay close attention. This resistance candle here is too small. This resistance candle here is too big. So I'm going to choose one that touches both areas that's a little smaller, which would be this one right here. This is the resistance candle I would choose to draw the width of the body. And now, press play. Look where the market reacted at. Okay? So Quincy just said, I did an entry on GU 40 minutes ago, and I closed on break even because I was not patient enough. Quincy, drop and give me 20, bro. Drop and give me 20 push-ups, man. That is absolutely unacceptable. Patience is the only thing we got as a trader. And you got to tag Trend Trap FX if you're doing the push-ups, bro. You're called out live. Dozens of people are watching. You can't do 20 push-ups and we got bigger problems. Right? When you break a rule, how are you going to discipline yourself? Sometimes I break a rule, I'll go on a run. I hate running. Like, okay, well, now you're running a mile. You over leverage, boom, hit the mile, bro. Hit the mile. You gotta be able to police yourself. As adults, who's there to correct us? Right? Think about that. You break a law, who's there to correct you? The police. You're a kid, you break a rule, who's there to correct you? Your parents. You break a rule in trading, who's there to correct you? You. What are you gonna do to correct yourself? I like to put myself through physical, I guess that sounds but pain, not like real pain, not like demented. Over here, hurting myself. But I'm definitely, putting myself through maybe some extracurricular exercise, right? So you want to do that. Otherwise, you're just going to lose money. And some people, like me, losing money is not what helped me learn. It was actually being able to correct myself, right? So if you notice here, why did the market turn around here and keep going up? Previous resistance. Look how the market moves. Resistance, came, broke, support. This isn't by accident. This isn't by chance. This is by design. Let's take a look at USD CAD. And I want to go over something very important known as the break of structure. If this was my higher high and this is my daily high, why is the market going down right now? How did we know the market stopped going up and started going down? How did we know? Well, we draw something known as the break of structure. This yellow line says that when a red candle, why red candle? We need a red candle to open and close below this yellow line in order for the signal to go and do what? To be a downtrend. Now notice something. Great point, Luis, in the chat. It hit the daily and rejected multiple times. Remember when we said that the daily level is an extreme point of what? Of reversal. Look how the market hit that daily level, just turned around. That's from the daily chart. See? Shows this level here. How the market hit that level, just cool. So we're like, yo, we probably shouldn't take buys here, right? You probably shouldn't take buys at the top of the daily level unless it does what? Breaks above it and then uses it as support. Okay? So the market started going down a little bit and we're like, okay, we're looking for buys. Very similarly to AU, we probably would have had a buy zone here, right? Based off previous resistance, seeing if the market's going to react. And notice it did react a few times. Buy zone, it went up. And then the market did something which is known as the bend of the trend. Quincy did 21. It's in your DMs. Let's go. The power of one more. I love that, Quincy. If you don't know Quincy, that's a big guy. 21 push-ups. He's pushing a lot of weight. Big dude. All right, so we have higher lows here, right? Remember when Quincy came up to me at our first convention, I met him. He's like, "What's up, Jay?" I'm like, I just look up at him. Like, "What's up, bro? Here's my wallet, man. Like, whatever you want." And he's like, "No, man. Trend trap, bro." And I'm like, "Oh, thank God. Oh, my God. I was going to get mugged in Budapest." Kidding. Or watch out, Quincy. know what they say, dynamite comes in small packages. Come on. All right, so look here. We have what? We have what? An open and closed red candle down below, right? Down below. That means the market went from an uptrend into a downtrend. So we draw what? Pay attention. We look at previous level of support to become resistance. Where is my last level of support? Here. I draw it. Let's look. Here's my last support candle. Circle it. Draw it all the way over here. The market broke through this level, came back, touched it before leaving the train station and dropping almost 100 points or 100 pips. So now, where do we look for our next sell setups? Now that the market is when it's what's known as a downtrend, where should we look next? Market made a lower low. Our lower high is the point in which the lower low started. So we go up here, draw a lower high. Now look, this is where the market needs to break above for now until we paint a new lower low in order to be in an uptrend, right? So we look over to the left and we say, well, is there any other levels of support? Go to the left and, oh, I see some here, right? Go to the line chart. I see some here. Let's draw it right there. And look, that lines up with this one here. Okay, that makes sense. So we're just going to draw a rectangle off the last level of support. And I'm going to choose this one right here. Circle it. See it? Drop a yes in the chat box. All right? And we're going to drag it all the way across. So my first level of support is going to be right there. Let's draw our price label. Round it to the nearest quarter, 700. And now we wait for the market to pull back and we see if we get the reaction that we're looking for, a continuation down. Now here's a cool little secret. Do you need to be looking at the charts this whole time? How do we create freedom out of this skill set? Use technology. If you notice this little plus sign on the screen, I'm gonna zoom in here. See this plus sign right here? Everyone drop plus in the chat box. See that little plus sign? It's like an addition sign, an add sign. Yes, that is what's known as add something. I'm gonna add an alert on USD CAD. Right at the bottom of that zone. See, now it has an alert. Now, if I download the if I download the TradingView app, I can go to the message and I can give a custom name like crap hit, bro, right? Now I can go to notifications and I can tell it to notify me in the app. Display an on-site notification in the page corner. I can even tell it to send me an email and even to send me a sound. So it can send me an email saying, hey, your market just hit your trap, bro. Talk about freedom. Somebody said, Jay, do you use candle patterns like RBR, DBD to find your zone? Whatever I just showed you to find my zone is whatever. Let me be very clear. I'm not one of those traders that just tell you a little bit. And, most people, they tell me, Jay, don't give away all your secrets. Like, don't tell everyone exactly how you do. They won't need you, right? That's not my concern. My concern is you being equipped. And if you stick around with the Trend Trap Nation, it's because you value community and you also value continuous learning. Do you need to be on every session? Absolutely. However, I'm teaching you everything that I actually do. So Luis, let me make something very clear. Everything that I'm showing you is everything that I actually use. I'm not withholding information. I'm not telling you part 1 and 2 and keeping part 3 to myself, right? I'm literally giving you everything. So I don't even know what RBR and DB stands for. I use support, resistance, and body of candles to identify my zone. Everyone drop the word zone in the chat box if that makes sense. So the answer is no, I don't use that to find my zone. I just look at body of the candle based off previous support and resistance. So the alert's set. Now we just wait. We just wait. Wait for the market to pull back up to us. Let's look at an example on USD CHF as we wrap up today's trend trap lesson 2, the zone. Interesting. Look at this. So we have a daily high and a daily low. Are we approaching a daily low right now? Yeah, we just hit it, right? Isn't that a rejection zone? Yes. Okay, cool. Let's go to our 4-hour chart. Was this market in an uptrend or downtrend? Well, let's look. This is definitely a higher high. If this was a higher high, this was a higher low, because this is where the market started, right? This is our break of structure. The market broke structure here, right? Yes. Okay. So if we were looking for sells, the market is in a definite downtrend. Where am I looking for sells? Go to my line chart, look at the previous levels of flow. Go back to my candlestick chart, find the last support candle. There it is. Circle it. And now I'm just waiting for the market to pull back up into that zone for a continuation move. Now, isn't there another zone somewhere over here? There is. Let's draw it. Remember, we need 2 zones. So look, drawing this one too. Now, Jay, this is all the way from the beginning of May. That's fine because there wasn't anything else closer to time. This is closer to price. So think of it as like bus stops, right? So I have 2 zones. Let me drop the price labels. Make sure they're quarter. Oh, look at that. 23, 25. 92 becomes a whole. And we set an alert in the first lowest box. And we just wait. Now, what if price just goes straight through this? Boom, big candle. No worries. We delete it. And we look for the next zone above. We wait. Up until what? Up until it breaks above the new break of structure, known as BOS. If that makes sense, go ahead and drop some $signs in the chat box. Okay? Now remember, if you're just getting started, you're sticking to the green watch list. No more than these 5 pairs do you need to be able to get alerts on. Last thing you want is getting alerts on 15 different pairs, and now you have to decide which one to take. When all things are equal, you want to take what is correlating. At the beginning of tomorrow's session, I'm going to be going over what correlation is and what the breakout looks like. Now that you watch this, you understand the trend, how to identify market structure, and now the zone where price reacts. Your next step is some homework, some assignment, because what you practice, you make progress with, okay? Now, we're a part of a community. We're not lone wolves just watching YouTube for a reason. We know that commitment lasts longer in community. If I'm around a bunch of people that are playing basketball at a high level, am I going to get good or bad? Probably going to get better, right? If I'm playing soccer, like what? I'm playing soccer with Lionel Messi. Am I going to get better? Worse. Going to get better, right? So if I'm around other people doing the same thing as me, am I going to get better or worse? I'm going to get better, right? So I want to be a part of the community. So I want you to look at the screen and take action on your assignment. I want you to pick 3 trending pairs. On the 1-hour chart, I want you to draw 2 max zone based on structure. I want you to use quarter levels for extra confirmation and label it. Wait for price to react and not just hit. Post your trending pair markups. Take a picture of your setup. Jay, how do I take a picture of my setup? At the very top right-hand corner of the screen, you can download the image, copy the image, or copy the link, whichever's easier for you, and then post them in your Telegram, in your Discord, in your WhatsApp, in your team website, so that way you can practice what you want to progress. This is how you build the muscle. This is how you stop over trading. This is how you become a sniper and a trapper in the markets. Tomorrow, we're going to break down what's known as the breakout. How to time your entry like a pro and never miss the real move again. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys there bright and early at 8 a.m. EST. If you're watching the recording, thank you for choosing Trend Trap and welcome to the Trend Trap Nation. Remember, Take the best, leave the rest. We don't chase them, we replace them. See you on the next one. Let's go.